Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
So I want to begin by sharing with you a passage from the Dhammapada, which is a sacred Buddhist text, and I want to share it with you 3 times. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. I invite you to say this with me. Let's say it together 3 times. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law. Take a deep breath. I invite you to imagine 10,000 people chanting this at a Cambodian refugee camp. This is what happened in Cambodia. It was during a time when it was Pol Pot's regime. It was a time of genocide, and there were 2 million people who had been killed over this 20-year period from 1975, 20 years through this genocide. That was 25% of Cambodia's population. And these people, the refugees, were in camps. And there was a well-respected Cambodian monk by the name of Mahagosananda who would travel to the camps to serve them. And these people were Buddhist in their culture. But Buddhism had been decimated by Pol Pot and his regime, and these people had all seen the loss of spouses, children, parents. They had lost their homes, lost their temples. They had been oppressed and wounded and terribly damaged by this experience. But this monk decided that he would do this ceremony in one of the refugee camps. And so he sat, and he didn't know how many people would show up or anybody would show up because of the way that their religion had been persecuted. But he sat there in silence, and people started coming and coming and coming, and upwards of 10,000 people showed up. And he just sat in silence, and then he began this chant. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law, ancient and eternal. See, I couldn't even remember it. Ancient and eternal law. And one by one, these people who had been through so much pain started the chant, and they had every reason to hate in the world, every reason. They had been so persecuted. So they could have been filled with hate, but yet as they chanted this ancient scripture of love, they wept. They wept. And the weeping brought them to peace and to healing and to recognizing that love is so much stronger than any possible expression of hate that they ever experienced. I share this story with you today because I had planned this talk, and yet in light of what's happened this weekend in our country, I would feel that I had missed the mark if I did not address the shootings that happen in the country and just talk about what we're going through. Because we're all affected. I mean, am I right? Are we all feeling the heaviness of this still? I mean, it's still so fresh for us. There have been too many of these shootings. We know this. Now they're saying that 31 people have been confirmed killed, and we all want to know, how do we respond? What do we do? How can we make things better? Well, I started with just wearing orange. Some of you maybe have orange. I see some orange. I don't know if it's intentional, but that Mayor Turner had asked us to start wearing orange in support of curbing gun violence and seeing the end of gun violence. And so I feel like this is something, but it's not enough. There's more that could be done, that we can do it. I feel good about this as a start. But how do we respond? You know, when we respond like the angry mob carrying torches to the castle, then we recognize that hatred only brings more hatred. It doesn't bring healing. And some of us may want to tear this man limb from limb. But how does that restore us to peace and love and harmony? How does that really help? And so I want to bring you this scripture from our master teacher, Jesus Christ, who said on the Sermon on the Mount, "You may have heard it said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." And I find this to be a challenging teaching when you think about the pain that those persecuting have caused. It's not an easy assignment that our master teacher has given us, and he gave it to us 2,000 years ago. We're still working on it, right? Still working on it. The human way that is part of our human history is love your neighbor, hate your enemy. And he's saying the spiritual path of mastery is to learn to love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you. It's not easy. So how do we begin? So I thought we could begin with Think, Love, Pray, which is the title of my talk. I don't claim to have any solution to this, but I think I have a path towards the direction of a solution. Think, love, pray. And so I got the idea from the book Eat, Pray, Love, Think, Love, Pray, Elizabeth Gilbert's well-known books, one of my favorite books, and she talks about a difficult divorce that she went through and how she needed to find healing. So she left the country, she went abroad, she went to Italy, and she ate. She just enjoyed the food in Italy. She went to India and prayed and chanted and did yoga, and then she went to Bali and she found love. And so that was her journey of healing. And she says this in her book about human relationships. She says, it's still two human beings trying to get along, so it's going to be complicated. And love is always complicated. But humans must try to love each other, darling. We must get our hearts broken sometimes. This is a good sign, having a broken heart. It means we have tried for something. And I think perhaps we're feeling our hearts broken open by these tragedies that have happened, and what do we do? So the first step, think. My first step, think, and maybe I could have made it feel and think, but to make it clear, think. And it's to feel the pain and know the truth. So we've got to do both simultaneously, and that's spiritual mastery. So first it's feeling that broken heart and allowing ourselves to just be with that. Just be with that, and even just invite you to, if you want to just feel your heart right now and feel how it's just feeling right now, just check in. Feelings, emotions, we don't know where they all come from. They can come from what's going on in our lives now, from things that have been triggered in the past, that have come up to be healed in and through this situation. But when we center into our feelings, just allow ourselves to feel it, they bring us into the present moment, and then we can be grounded, we can allow, and we can welcome, just welcoming all the feelings, rather than trying to stuff them down under well, I'm going to just move on with my life. I've got things to do. I can't really think about this right now or feel this right now, and we stuff it down or we cover it over with just, an anger or outrage or whatever it is. It's just allowing ourselves to feel the hurt of this. This is painful because we're all one. We're all connected. We're connected with these people who've been hurt, and we're connected with the people who have perpetrated the harm. We're all connected. There are some self-compassion practices that we can do. One is putting your hand on your heart. Another is to hug yourself, to give yourself a good hug. These elicit positive emotions in the body so we can shift our feelings. Another, and this one my 3-year-old daughter Felicity loves, is just stroking your cheek. You ever just tried that? I haven't never really thought about doing it to myself. I do it to my daughter, and it's actually proven to release oxytocin, positive energy, emotions in the body. So what is the truth that we need to know? Okay, feel the feelings, right? And if you want to feel more feelings, we'll have a meditation and also a spiritual talk back after the service, and you'll really have an opportunity to hear back from you, and I hope you'll join us for that if you can. So what do we need to know is the truth? Well, as difficult as it may be to know the truth about this man who is in prison now for perpetrating this heinous crime, we need to remember that he is an expression of God. Because once we dehumanize him, that's when we separate from truth, that's when we separate from love, that's when we go into hate. We've got to remember that he is an expression of God. We're all truly one with each other, and that's in a way that transcends all rational thought. We try to even explain how we're one. It's beyond because it's divine, right? So we can feel the pain and know the truth simultaneously. When we do that, we become a healing force in the world. We become a healing energy, again, walking in mastery. But you can hear this teaching, Jesus' teaching, and go, love your enemies, and you might feel outraged at what happened. How could I love somebody who could do such a horrible thing? I mean, yes, it's absolutely hideous that this happened, but at what point will we end the violent thinking that causes the violent action? We've got to end the violent thinking, and we sing every Sunday, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. We end the violent thinking with us, checking in with ourselves. Where am I holding violent thoughts, vengeful thoughts, hurtful thoughts? We all have that as part of our humanity, so rather than deny it, check in with it. Notice it. Bring love, bring understanding, and bring peace, because if we want to be healed on the outer, we all have the opportunity to make a difference by doing the inner work. That's our spiritual teaching. So think, okay? Think, feel the pain, know the truth. Second is love. We all need to learn how to love those who persecute us. So we say we're the Love Everybody Church at Unity, right? We love everybody feeling the love. But what about bigots? What if I got up here and started making bigoted comments? How would you feel about me now? You might be going to Michael and saying that you have a problem with me. Maybe I need to get out of ministry. Maybe I need to have my license revoked. Maybe I need to be kicked out of Houston. And all of a sudden, what happened to the Love Everybody Church? We need to form an energy that dissolves the hatred. And we can do that collectively. It can be done. I know individually we've perhaps experienced this in relationships in our lives. We can do this. Do we ignore what's going on? No. Do we beat it? No. We look straight into it, and looking into it with love helps it to dissolve. That's the practice. And so, to love someone is not to like them. We know this, right? You can love someone from afar where they're out of the realm of being able to harm us or control us or victimize us in any way. Yes, we would want this man to stay in prison, right? We would want this man to stay in prison where he cannot harm any more people and conduct any more of these crimes, but we don't dehumanize him in our thought. We want to remember that. Now, we try to make sense of these senseless crimes and what causes these young men to do what they do, to hate so much. And we might not want to get into that mindset of following that path. We can imagine that perhaps they're bullied, abused, misunderstood, that through their manifestos, they share their thoughts of being threatened and displaced in the world by how the world is evolving, by the world becoming too brown for them. This negative energy is not new, but now it's been given an outlet, and in some ways seems to be given permission. And so we have to evolve with how the world is evolving and not stay stuck in old mindsets, or we will experience a world of hurt. That we are here to evolve together and to support each other in that evolution. You know, xenophobia is not anything new. It's a trait that actually helped humans in the early days. The very first humans, the world was a very dangerous place to live in, okay? If you saw somebody who looked different than you and talked different than you, that person likely was going to conquer and kill your tribe and take your stuff, right? So it served those early people, and it took a long time in our human history to evolve from that, but there's still some of that left. And we're seeing it now. It's that thinking that if someone's different from us, then they're wrong. There's something wrong with them. Even language divides us. Even food divides us. David and I and our daughter went on a trip to Florida for a vacation last week, is why you didn't see us. It was fun. It was a lot of driving. And as you drive through the states, you can see the different cultures and the different foods. And we went in Louisiana, and they had cracklins and boudin. Is that how you say it? Boudin. I didn't even say it right. Boudin. And we're like, what's this boudin and cracklins? Everywhere has boudin and cracklins. So it's not something maybe I would eat, but some people probably love it. You could special order it. You know, they go out of their way to get it. So am I going to say, well, I never eat that, so neither would I ever talk to anybody who eats that or hang out with those people. If I want to be in that state, get me out of the state already, because it has this food, you know? How we separate ourselves from each other because something's different. So look at the world. We want to look at the world that we can create, to use our spiritual faculties to consider, do we want healing or do we want more violence? And so are we perpetuating violence in our mind and in a certain way of saying, well, this is the way things are and they're only going to get worse? Can we think into the solution? Well, what could we have done for him? What could we do for these young men? I don't know. But we've got to start looking at the people that we know, the people around us, the people in our community, and remembering our shared humanity. Remembering our shared humanity. It's time for us to unlock our higher functions, to stop operating out of our animal brain, unlock our higher functions, and begin acting from our awareness of our oneness with each other to bring forth that consciousness. And this is a state of that humankind has not experienced yet. We haven't fully come into this awareness of oneness. We teach it, we practice it, but collectively we're evolving into this. And we're all supporting each other and evolving together. So think, love, and pray. Well, how are we going to shift our consciousness if we don't pray, if we don't change our state of mind, change our thinking into love? And we can just ask in prayer, Spirit, show me how I can understand what's happening. Show me how to see this rightly. Show me how to see this in love. Show me what is mine to do. How can I show up in love? And through prayer, we receive a higher awareness. Rather than looking outside and seeing, is there any leader or somebody to tell me what to do? When we go within, that's when that higher awareness of love, consciousness comes through. And through prayer, I know we can see how to help these young men heal. We will hold this in prayer. Can we commit to holding this in prayer? That there is a way for this healing to unfold, and I think it'll be many ways, things coming together so that these crimes can't happen anymore and that there's healing for these men. Because what we don't want to do is put them outside of our heart and want to banish them where they're no longer part. We want to see them healed and become a part of our shared humanity. And we can also use prayer to see that there's so much good happening in our lives. We can get tunnel focused in times like these and just be seeing like just the negative and the harm and everything. Remember, there's just so much other good things happening, and focus on that as well. Not to bypass, but to include and just really have a full perspective. And when Jesus talked about you can do these things and greater things you can do, I've thought about that. What were the greater things? Because what could you do that's greater than what Jesus did? He performed miracles, he healed people, he raised somebody from the dead. You know, he raised himself from the dead. Like, wow. But what I thought, I just had this idea that he never saw the one humanity. He never saw the oneness consciousness of all people. That's the greater thing. I feel that's the greater thing, that he's saying, well, you can do it, and you are called to do it. And we need to do it. Another way that Jesus said this same passage is in Luke 6:27. He said, "Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you." And so, just to review, think, love, pray. Think, feel the pain, and know the truth. Love, we've got to learn how to love those who persecute us. And pray, we do that by shifting our consciousness to a higher consciousness, for asking for Spirit's guidance and putting everyone on the prayer list. Everyone. And so we just send out a blessing of love to all people now, and remember our true oneness together in humanity. God bless you all.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.